What's up, world? Let me tell you about this beard growth oil I got from 12 tribes on Earth. 8 ounces of oily goodness with a nozzle that prevents sprays and spills, and soft ingredients that make it perfect addition to anyone's morning routine. From coconut to castor, all these oils are hand chosen. After using this herbal blend, the biggest thing I noticed is how soft and how strong my hair was, and how good I feel. Pick up your bottle today and make your beard the star of the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I have been talking about college enrollment is down all over the country. Well, that's not the only thing that has been suffering. Also, college towns once were booming because there were all kinds of students there, just patronizing the small businesses. Not anymore. Many of these businesses are saying they barely get any traffic coming into their businesses now. And for the most part, the streets virtually look empty around many of these college campuses now. And this seems to be a trend all over the country. Ladies and gentlemen, people are just not enrolling in college like they used to. Many people are afraid to get in debt. They are afraid of spending money that they would much rather hang on to now. And they're looking for schooling, but alternatives other than college. And, I was reading, and this must have been like back in April. They said the largest amount of people, probably in the history of this country, skipped their student loan payments. They said it was so many people, they have never seen this amount of people do it. It was a lot of people. They can't afford to pay. That's what's happening. And y'all know, since Donald Trump took office, they have gone up on the amount of what people pay per month. That has gone up. For some people, it doubled and tripled what they were originally paying back in 2024. And I can just see that trend getting worse as we move along, and unemployment is going through the roof. So I'm not surprised that's happening, but really, right now, when it comes down to education is in bad shape in America. It really, truly is. And I can't see, how do you make this better? You can't. If the salaries, and we already know the salaries are not going up in this country, but everything else is going up. And as long as that keeps happening, you're going to see less people enrolling for college each and every year. That's already going. That trend has been going on for quite some time now. But as things keep inflating, I can see by the time 2026 come, college enrollment will probably be in the tank. People are just afraid to get themselves in debt because they're already struggling. So, y'all, let's get into this story. At Western Illinois University, an empty dorm that once held 800 students is now a police training ground where active shooter drills have left behind overturned furniture, rubber-tipped bullets, and paintball casings. Nearby dorms have been razed to weedy fields. 2 more dorms are set to close this summer. Frat houses and homes once filled with student renters are empty lots. City streets used to be so crowded during the semester that cars moved at a crawl. No more. "It's almost like you're watching the town die," said Caleb Magruder, who was born in Macomb and worked 28 years for the Western Illinois Campus Police Department. Macomb is at the heart of a new Rust Belt. Across the U.S., colleges are faltering, and so are the once booming towns around them. Enrollment is down at many of the nation's public colleges and universities, widening the gap between high-profile campuses and struggling schools. Starting next year, there will be fewer high school graduates for the foreseeable future. The fallout extends to downtown Macomb. Sullivan Taylor Coffee House, located in the corner of a stately 130-year-old building not far from campus, sits mostly empty during the semester. Owner Brandon Thompson has cashed out retirement savings, hit the limits of his credit cards, even canceled his home internet to keep the doors open. "We're down to bare bones," said Thompson, who is thinking about filing for bankruptcy. For generations, colleges around the U.S. fueled local economies, creating jobs and bringing in students to shop and spend. Growing student enrollment fattened school budgets and freed universities from having to worry about inefficiencies or cutting costs. The student boom has since ended, and college towns are suffering. Among metropolitan areas, especially reliant on higher education, 3/4 of them suffered weaker economic growth between 2011 and 2023 than the U.S. as a whole, according to an analysis by Mark Murrow and Shreya Methkupali at Brookings Metro, a nonprofit think tank in Washington, D.C. In the prior decade, most of these same metro areas grew faster than the nation did. "It's just been one financial crisis after another for the past 15 or 17 years, said Andrew Korachich, executive director of the Alliance for Research on Regional Colleges and a professor of higher education at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina. It starts to accumulate in smaller college towns, especially for colleges that don't have billions of dollars in the bank. College towns are now threatened by federal funding cuts from the Trump administration, resulting in hiring freezes and layoffs at Ivy League and state schools alike. Administration efforts to cancel student visas might hurt state college budgets, since most international students pay higher out-of-state tuition. Even worse, the number of students graduating from American high schools is expected to start falling next spring, after reaching a record high this year. In 2007, the number of U.S. births peaked at 4.3 million and has been falling almost every year since. Large flagship universities, blessed with strong academic reputations and high-profile sports programs, continue to boost local economies. In such cities as Ann Arbor, Michigan, University of Michigan, Madison, Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, and Gainesville, Florida, University of Florida, students fill dorms, restaurants, and bars. A Wall Street Journal analysis of 748 public four-year colleges and universities in all 50 states shows that full and part-time enrollment at the most prominent state universities increased 9% in 2023 compared with 2015. At lesser-known regional state universities, enrollment fell 2%. The shift represents tens of thousands of students who have abandoned struggling college towns. At the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, the state's flagship school, enrollment jumped 30% in 2023 compared with 2015. Enrollment at Tennessee's 10 regional state colleges fell a combined 3% over the same period. In Wisconsin, enrollment at the University of Wisconsin in Madison jumped 16% and fell 9% at regional public campuses over the same period. Between 2011 and 2023, the economies of the metropolitan areas that include Madison and Knoxville grew faster than the U.S. as a whole. More students are opting out of college after high school, calculating that tuition prices, as well as the opportunity cost of lost work years, aren't worth it. Smaller, less distinguished private schools have similar troubles, which have resulted in the closures of at least 242 institutions that issue college degrees in the past decade, according to the Heckinger Report, which covers education news. Of students choosing to enter college, more of them are aiming for prestigious universities, believing those diplomas will get them better jobs, said Richard Vedder, an economist at Ohio University who studies higher education. It's a flight to quality, he said. The flagship University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign campus is booming. Enrollment this past academic year was up 36% from 2010. Last fall, facing a shortage of space, the university doubled up students in dorm rooms. From 2010 to 2023, the economy of the metropolitan region surrounding the Urbana-Champaign campus grew at more than twice the pace of the county containing western Illinois. In Macomb, about 140 miles west of Urbana-Champaign, the city's population fell 23% to an estimated 14,765 from 2010 to 2024. The enrollment at Western Illinois University's Macomb campus has fallen 47% since 2010 to 5,511 from 10,377. Falling enrollment shifts more of the financial burden to state governments, and government funding hasn't kept up with rising costs, a Western Illinois spokesman said. A budget standoff in the Illinois State House froze state funding for almost 2 years between 2015 and 2017, forcing layoffs and budget cuts. The freeze hit Western Illinois particularly hard given its falling enrollment. School officials cut programs and raised fees, making it tough to attract new students, employees said. Some cuts are easy to see in needed repairs to sidewalks and buildings, according to Justin Schuch, the university's vice president for student success. A state bill to increase funding for struggling universities is the talk of the town. Cracks and holes in campus walkways are so deep they have makeshift barriers. On a recent spring day, the quad in the middle of campus drew only a handful of students. Sandbags lined an academic building no longer used. One bright spot on campus is the $100 million plus Performing Arts Center being built with state funds for new infrastructure projects. Fewer students at the university also mean fewer professors. We're down a lot of faculty members, said Ty Kenny, who graduated this month with a degree in agricultural business. They're all stretched to the absolute max. Layoffs and attrition have shrunk campus employment by 38% in the past 11 years. It's just this big snowball, said Krista Bowers-Sharp, an associate professor and librarian. She got laid off this month after 28 years at the school. Baby bust. Macomb's fortunes have been closely tethered to Western Illinois for decades. In the 1960s and 1970s, an army of baby boomers enrolled in colleges, seeking degrees in a U.S. economy tilting away from manufacturing jobs to white-collar work. Western Illinois, founded in 1899, put up new campus buildings to accommodate its surging enrollment, which peaked at 15,469 in 1973. Macomb became quite the boomtown, said Mayor Michael Inman, who attended Western Illinois in the 1970s. Small businesses just popped up everywhere. Campus enrollment has fallen by more than half since 1973, with much of the decline after 2011. City sales tax revenue has dropped almost proportionally with the number of students during that period, the mayor said. Holly Stovall canceled her gym membership, switched to a cheaper supermarket, and stopped paying for a housekeeper after losing her job as a women's studies professor at Western Illinois in 2017. She also stopped donating to a local public radio station. Saving money on dining out wasn't hard. The restaurants closed, she said, so you didn't have to worry about that. Recently, she and husband, Tom Sadler, an economics professor at Western Illinois, moved to Chicago, where Stovall is teaching part-time, she said, a class here and class there. Sadler commutes to Macomb for part of each week by train to teach his classes. Macomb isn't a great place to be if you don't have a job, Stovall said. Vitale's restaurant and pizzeria used to stay open some nights until 2 a.m. Now we can barely stay open until 9, said Julie Dienst, the daughter of owner Concetta Vitale. The family wants to sell but can't find a buyer? Nelson's Clothing, located in a row of 2-story commercial buildings across from an ornate county courthouse, struggles to hire because the once abundant student labor pool has dried up, owner John Nelson said. The city is looking to diversify its economy, the mayor said, and relieve its dependency on the university. Roller bearing maker NTN Bauer and window maker Pella run factories on Macomb's eastern fringe, employing more than 1,000 people, according to the Regional Economic Development Corporation. Reversing decades of declines, the total number of manufacturing jobs in the city is up. Inman touts the recently opened TJ Maxx and Hobby Lobby stores, as well as plans for the city's first Chipotle Mexican grill. Further off is a proposal for a municipal sports complex with indoor basketball and volleyball courts and 4,000 seats to host tournaments. Ann Thomas, who owns a shaved ice stand in downtown Macomb, isn't betting on economic improvement. Her husband, a Western Illinois music professor, worries about losing his job. They are considering selling their house and moving into a rental as a hedge against the city's continued decline. They worry a flood of new layoffs will depress housing prices. My husband used to feel pretty secure, Thomas said, but not anymore. There's definitely a cloud. Y'all, just listening to that article, one thing I can honestly say, college is never going to be the same in this country. And plus, you're getting around to the younger generation where they are fewer in number now. They're not as big as the generations before them. So it is inevitable. Now, I did a story, I believe it was like back in 2023, of all the colleges that were closing because they just didn't have the students to stay open anymore. And I can see that happening again. And I think people are going to be shocked at the colleges. Some of these well known colleges are going to just close doors because people are just not coming. And as for the businesses, I could just see a lot of these college town businesses going out of business in the next few years. I would not doubt if many of them will go out of business this year. If they don't have the students in these towns anymore, how do you keep the businesses open? That was the whole purpose in putting the businesses there in the first place, so they could take advantage of all of the college students that would come and frequent these little cafes and coffee houses and stuff that's up and down these streets. And y'all, it's the same everywhere. Where I grew up in Philly, there was, and it's still University City. And I remember when I was a child and we would go through there, it would be students everywhere on both sides of the street. It would just be packed. And I noticed, like, over, I would say, like the last 15 years, if you go down to University City, it is far less students just out and about. You really don't see the amount of students that you would have seen like back in the 90s and the 80s. You would have seen it would have been students everywhere. So many, it wouldn't be funny. But now when you go down to University City, it's not like that anymore. It's not like that. And I've been down there during the day, and it is nothing like that anymore. So I don't think it's, certain locations. I really think it's all locations now, all over the country. But y'all, please tell me what you think about this video. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.